No przecież nie ta preska, nie? To ostatnia rzecz, jaka by tak sprawiła. Tylko wiesz, ja się w tej chwili gapię w biały slajd i ja nie widzę, co się dzieje.
Dobrze, jest dobrze, już wszyscy czekają i siedzą i cię słyszą.
Też mamy biały brzeg.
No tak. A, powiedziałeś, że zaczynasz od białego.
Tak, tylko chodzi mi o to, że nie mam żadnego jednego podglądu. A dobrze, w takim razie jak będziemy gotowi, to po prostu mi powiedz. Bo,
A kliknij następny slajd. Tak. Mamy wszystko.
Okej.
Możemy zacząć od tego drugiego.
Możemy zacząć od pustego, bo ja chcę zrobić wprowadzenie takim pytaniem. Bo to
Dobrze.
umawialiśmy się, że po angielsku będzie, tak?
Jasne.
Czy w sumie nie wiem, czy pytanie ma sens, jak mi Sala nie odpowie, ale to może być pytanie retoryczne w dalszym ciągu.
Okay, we have two participants or three participants from abroad, so we can conduct this in English if you want to. I can sit if you want.
Okay, so shall we begin or?
No, I shall start.
Okay. Ponownie, trochę mi dźwięk przerywa, więc...
Ladies, gentlemen, I'm welcoming you on the final session of our International Student Conference from the series Musical Laboratory Research, Creation, Interpretation at the Feliksa Nowowiejskiej Academy of Music in Bydgoszczy. Today we have the last session and we welcome our panelist, Wojciech Wieczorek. He is from the University of Silesia, Katowice, Uniwersytet Śląski w Katowicach, Akademia Muzyczna imienia Karola Szymanowskiego w Katowicach. Wojtek jest człowiekiem wielu talentów, jest doktorantem studiów literaturoznawczych, jak również studiuje teorię muzyki i kompozycję, specjalność teoria muzyki, studia licencjackie i oddaję Tobie, Wojtku, głos.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to express my deepest regret that I cannot be here today with you personally, but I would also like to thank the organizers for accommodating for the state of things and making this presentation happen. Now, I would like to begin the presentation with a question. What is a myth? So we can say that a myth is a tale about deities, supernatural beings, and phenomena connected to the sphere of the sacred. It is also connected to religion and helps in creating moral values, orders, societies, and culture. Currently, it's a kind of collective consciousness rooted in society. It often refers to the creation of the world, but also to the way certain phenomena are depicted. For example, in Poland, we have a myth of the cursed soldiers. Today's presentation is going to be dedicated to the creation of myth in music through music and other connections between music and myths. But first of all, we have to analyze the ways we can interpret myths. One approach to reading the myth, according to Claude Lévi-Strauss, a French sematician and structuralist, is to treat it as a sign system. So let's explain what is a sign. According to Ferdinand de Saussure, the father of modern semiotics, the father of modern linguistics, sorry, a sign is a two-sided psychological entity consisting of the signifier and the signified, where the signifier is the symbol of the represented object, while the latter is the represented object. The sign in the language is completely arbitrary. There is no connection between the word representing the object and the represented object, except maybe for some onomatopoeic words. So, according to Roland Barthes, in myth, the important factor is not the form, but the content. The form of the myth might be manifested through various means, such as painting, theater, music, film, sports, photography, or sculpture. We can illustrate it with an example of 20th century futurism. That's the example that Arayi provides. According to him, a machine can be depicted in painting, poetry, or music being the signified, while the signifier is the spirit of modernism and productivity. The goal of such endeavor would be to make a machine a symbol in the cultural context. So the music might be reduced to the something that carries the myth, but not only. But we will talk about that in a minute. Now let's listen to the example of the futurist music. Arayi provided Arthur Honegger's Pacific 231, but I think that the better even example is Alexander Mosolov, Iron Foundry. Oh, sorry. Okay, so once again, the machine here is a signifier. The signified is the spirit of modernism, and here music just carries the myth, but it can also be connected to the myth in completely different ways. So let's talk about that. Myth is connected to the music first and foremost through the sphere of the sacred. And both of those things not only take us away from the profane and we drift away with them to the world of the sacred, but they are very important in building the culture, also building religions. It often accompanied both of those things, both the myth and the music, accompanied rites, rituals, rites of passage, ceremonies. Sometimes even some instruments had a sacred meaning. Also, both of those things are variable. For example, think about the myths before they were written, when they were passed orally. They had a lot of different variants, and some of them were written down later. Or the variants of folk music, right? And also, none of these things is depicted by traditional linear concept of time. In the myths, we usually don't really have the historical context. We only know sometimes about the most important events that came before the myth or the things that will come after the myth. While in music, the time sometimes is spiral. Think about Ravel's Bolero or Bach's fugues, which are also very peculiar in the way we are perceiving the time. It is very like walking in circles. Now, let's move to the structure of the myths. So, Algerida Julien Grémont, Lithuanian French semiotician, studied themes and their role in the sentences and communication. So themes are the smallest units of meaning, for example, length and speed, and they can be arranged in a position such as long, short, loud, quiet, big, small, and such. Claude Lévi-Strauss, inspired by the word theme, coined a term mytheme. So a mytheme is the smallest meaningful unit of a myth. Lévi-Strauss also believed that a myth can be read as a musical score, diachronically and synchronically, horizontally and vertically. He illustrates his point on the example of a deck of cards. If we have a deck of cards with random numbers on them, such as in the row visible above, 2, 3, 1, 6, 3, 8, etc., just a row of random numbers. If we wanted to organize them so that it would make sense, if we put ones with ones, twos with twos, threes with threes, etc., and put them in decks like that, and then segregate the decks from the smallest to the biggest one, we would get a grid-like structure that is visible at the bottom of the slide. According to him, if we read the myth from left to right, we get its content, its story. But if we read it horizontally, we get its meaning. He illustrates that on the example of the myth of the Oedipus, which is probably one of the most well-known myths. Let's focus on the three first columns first. Don't think about the fourth one for a second, we'll get to that later. So, if we read it from left to right, Cadmus seeks his sister Europa ravished by Zeus, Cadmus kills the dragon, the Spartans kill each other, Oedipus kills his father Laius, Oedipus kills the Sphinx, Oedipus marries his mother Jocasta, Eteocles kills his brother Polynices, and Antigone buries her brother Polynices despite prohibition. We get the story of the myth of the Oedipus. But if we look at the way the myth is organized, we can see that the first two columns are occupied with the bonds of blood. The left one, the first one, shows us the blood relations that were treated closer than they should have been, than the social rules would allow it. And the second one is the opposite of that. Those are blood relations that were trespass, that were too distant, let's say. Well, putting it mildly, because it often deals with patricide or fratricide. So they are in oppositions. Bonds of blood that were either too close or too brutal. Now, the third row is the third column, is occupied with the monsters that sprang from the earth. So they would be chthonic monsters. The first column doesn't really fit in the story of the myth, at least with the chronology. So I think that Lévi-Strauss could have made his example a little better. But if you look at the origin of the names, they're all dealing with the troubles with walking. And in many mythologies, people that have sprung from the earth, because that was the belief, had problems with standing straight, walking straight, just like newly born animals. Oedipus even means swollen foot, and as we all know, his feet were pierced when he was a little child. So according to Lévi-Strauss, the myth of Oedipus is really about the origins of mankind and its autochthonic origins, because the dragons negate, the monsters negate autochthonic origin of men, but the names are proving that men are coming from the union of men and women, and that's why we have the first two columns. So according to him, the myth is about explaining, because all myths are all about explaining the natural worlds and phenomena, and this one is supposed to explain to the mankind that people are born of a union of a woman and men, and not springing from the earth. For example, the Spartoi that were killing each other, they were sawn from the teeth of the dragon. So that again reinforces the mythical origins of men that were unknown. Either they're from the ground or from the union of other people. So that's the story of Oedipus. But Lévi-Strauss also believes that the same rule can be applied to reading Wagner's Ring Cycle or other musical scores. 3 times in the entire Ring Cycle, we have a theme that was called the Renunciation of Love. Let's have a listen. So, the first time the theme appears, Alberic renounces love in order to obtain the gold of Rhine. The gold which is supposed to give him all the power in the world. The second time we hear it when Sigmund pulls the sword out of a tree, out of the symbolic tree of life, a symbolic tree of universe, something like that, before he finalizes his incestuous relationship with his sister. And the third time is when Wotan puts Brunhilde to sleep, and she is about to be rescued by a hero that knows no fear. So why the theme of the renunciation of love? Lévi-Strauss claims that each time there is something to be retrieved. Gold retrieved from the depths of Rhine, the sword to be retrieved from the tree, and a woman retrieved from flames. And according to him, each of those things is a means to conquer something, to gain something. The gold is a means to conquer power. The sword is a means to conquer love. And that's why Brunhilde returns the gold into the depths of Rhine, because she was supposed to be a mean to restoring the balance. And according to him, those things are one and the same, but looked at through different angles. Let's talk about some more modern example. One of the most well-known mythopoetic sagas, that is Lord of the Rings, and I would like to talk about the interpretation of Peter Jackson in his films. There is a theme that Doug Jones in his book, The Music of Lord of the Rings, calls nature's reclamation. So it's supposed to be connected to the nature. Let's have a listen. Okay, I think that's enough. Now let's talk about the examples of usage in the film. I think the first time we can hear it is when Gandalf escapes from Isengard with the help of the eagles. The second time is when the Ents march on Isengard. Then again, when Rohan comes to the aid of Gondor, and then I think it's the last statement of the theme in the films, is when the eagles come to fight in the battle at the Black Gate. So what all those things have to do with nature? Well, eagles are of course connected to nature. Ants are basically living trees, anthropomorphic trees. But what about the Rohan coming to the aid of Gondor? There is no nature there unless you count the horses. Howard Shore, the composer of the music to Lord of the Rings, explained that to Tolkien, nature symbolized everything that was good in the world. And Rohirrim's take that role in the third movie. But I think that if we try to analyze it with the same way that Levi-Strauss analyzed the ring cycle, we can notice that each time the theme is audible, an unexpected help comes to turn the tides of the fight for the forces of good. So I think that's the hidden meaning behind the theme of nature and the story of Tolkien. Let's talk about different approaches to the myth. Different methods of creating the myth and music itself. Eratosthenes discerns categories of avant and après, claiming that myth always refers to something that was way long before the myth itself, or something that is about to come. So according to him, even the musical form ABA fits that category. Also, even more so, Wagnerian leitmotifs, right, because they are coming again. Reference to folk traditions, that's something that is always mythical. So of course, think Stravinsky and Rite of Spring. Archaization, things like Smetana's My Country, Visegrad, for example. Harmony and scales, specific exotic scales, octatonic scales, specific harmony, like, for example, parallel fifths. They all have mythical qualities. Musical topics referring to old traditions. Instrumentation, again, Smetana and Wagner, and tonality. For example, for Beethoven, E flat major was the heroic key, and for Wagner, it often was B flat major. Eratosthenes was also inspired by Karl Jaspers, German philosopher, who discerned three mythical categories: nature mythical, hero mythical, and mechanical mythical. According to him, they were constantly fighting with each other for the domination. But they would also be expanded on by Eratosthenes, who claimed that in music we can find even more categories: the nature mythical, hero mythical, magical, fabulous, balladic, legendary, etc., etc. For example, for him, the primitivistic would be some music consisting of repetitive rhythms, rudimentary harmony, and other means like that. The demonic or the fabulous, Tarasti was primarily occupied with the romantic music, so he would talk about music that sounded like chanting spells, incantations. So, for example, Hector Berlioz' Symphony Fantastique, the national musical, and he points to Kullervo here, where the fiddle imitates a national folk tune. So that would be categories, mythical musical categories according to him, but again, mostly in the Romantics, but I think that a lot of 20th century music also is similar. Furthermore, according to him, in music can be manifested by the mythical themes of the work itself and the reference to the past. And again, I would like to point the modern example. So even more well-known, probably, modern mythopoeia, which is Star Wars. Let's take a look at the poster. Luke Skywalker doesn't look like that in the film. In the poster, clearly he has 6 times bigger muscles. His chest is huge. Leia is also exposing a lot of body. In the film, she's covered from head to toes. So in some way, the poster is lying to us. In some way, it's distorted. But at the same time, it's very truthful, because the films in the 1970s were mostly occupied with being realistic, with moral dilemmas, things like that. And the poster clearly told the viewer what kind of a movie he is going to watch. He is going to watch a mythical tale, a fairy tale, something about good and evil, something reminding him the films of 1930s and 1940s. I think that the title music for Star Wars goes the same way. The main title for Star Wars is basically Luke Skywalker's theme, who again in the first movie is not really a hero, he's just a simple farm boy. So let's have a short listen of the fanfare that I'm pretty sure everybody knows. Again, the fanfare is much bigger than the character itself. So it focuses on the idealism of the ideal of the hero than the character itself. So we have a mythical theme here. We have a fairy tale. We also have other things like the opposition of the keys, because the main title is in B flat major, and the antagonist theme is in G minor. So we have a parallel key. But more importantly, we have a reference to the past, because the main theme from Star Wars is quite similar to 1933 movie King's Row. I think that reference is entirely intentional. I think that they wanted, both Lucas and Williams show the viewer from the very get-go what they are about to watch, that they are referring adventure movies from the golden age of cinema. Furthermore, Timothy Sharp claims that every genre film might be regarded as a form of a secularized myth. He argued against Tamrasti's or James Buller's notions that myth always deals with the sacred. According to him, myth is some sort of ideal, but not something very strict. So even secularized form of the rhythm having specific qualities can be regarded as a myth. For example, a genre film is something where the pleasure of viewing comes from knowing of conventions, of knowing of tropes, which is very ritualistic, as the myths are themselves. Furthermore, Joseph Campbell, probably the most well-known scholar dealing with a myth, claimed that in the myths, the important factor is reestablishing the moral order, knowing of the conventions, and reconciliations of the oppositions.
Sorry,
I
Wojtek,
think
we have
that
3 minutes left.
re-establishing the moral order is something that...
Wojtek, we have 3 minutes left.
Okay, thank you. It's something that a lot of films, noir films, dealt with, or westerns. And I think that they have mythical qualities even with when it comes to the music itself. Because if we think about the film noir, we can hear jazz music, which has nothing to do with the categories we talked about itself, which Tarasti discerned. When it comes to the reconciliation of the myths, Levi-Strauss claimed that myths deal with mediating two opposite concepts. And he illustrates that on the example of mythologies of different Native American tribes. For example, if the two opposite concepts is life and death, the mediating thing would be a trickster figure from many mythologies, such as a raven or a coyote. That's because if we are trying to slowly close the gap between life and death, and you try to do it with different triads, such as the one depicted here, agriculture, hunt, and war, those are things that are closer to life or death, but not in between them. If we try to find something else, like animals, then herbivorous animals would be too close to life. Prey animals would be too close to death because they need to kill to get sustained. Herbivorous animals don't kill to get sustained, while the scavengers, they don't kill, but they profit on others' animals' death. According to Timothy Shire, in films, the mediating factor is the music because it allows the viewer for the suspension of disbelief and forget that they are watching an actor and believe that they are watching a character. It also helps to explain the illogical things in the narrative if somebody listens closely to the mood of music. It also helps to reconcile the opposition with the major-minor opposition, which is often used to underscore the theme of the hero. His struggles are like in Liszt's music, often scored with minor theme, but his triumph is the return of the home key to the major tonality. And as also we have said, rituality of conventions and the leitmotif are also mythical qualities. Furthermore, I would say that leitmotifs are very similar to Homeric epithets. So to conclude, music and myth have accompanied people from the immemorial times, while in the 19th century, the music have manifested the myth in the new form, mainly opera and the musical dramas, mostly in Wagner's music or in programmatic music of the Romantic composers. But in the 20th century, probably the most mythical invention is the film. And I think that if Wagner would live today, or if he even lived to the invention of the film, he would probably have his own film studios and would direct and write music to the film. That would be all his invention, because as we all know, he was quite a freak control. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for Wojtek from the audience? Okay, we have Diana.
First of all, congratulations on your presentation. I'm very happy to see semiotics there, because it's what I study too. But regarding the Lord of the Rings example, I have a question. Wouldn't it rather be a salvation theme, maybe, rather than a nature theme? Because the topic which is present, from what I recall, is rather the hymn topic, rather than something related to nature.
I think it could be regarded this way, because again, I don't really support that it's fully a nature theme, but both the composer Howard Shore and Doug Jones in his analysis call it the nature theme. It's connected to the ends, it's connected to the moth that helps Gandalf in escape. It's connected to the eagles.
Strictly musically speaking, it's not related to nature, from what I heard.
In what way? Because I think that one of the concepts, the one concept might carry the other one. For example, maybe the nature itself is foretalking some kind of salvation. Maybe that's what so universally used in the saga. I'm not arguing against that that interpretation, but I'm trying to find a way to connect it all together.
Yes, thank you.
I mean, it might be. It certainly is connected to unexpected help and salvation, as you said. I think there was an example when the hobbits in the first film help distract the orcs from Frodo, and I think that you can also hear that theme there, although in a very defragmented form, but I think it's there. So again, something with rescue, something with salvation, maybe something like that.
Thank you. I don't recall all the scenes in which it appeared and neither the entire theme. I was just curious about this other perspective with the topic theory.
Sure, I think it might be something like that. I would also have to rewatch the whole theme and the whole saga and note down every single instance of the theme and then think what it all means.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions? In my perspective, those skills for composers to arrange.
I'm sorry, but I can't hear you. If you are saying anything, you are muted.
Okay.
Okay.
So from my perspective, skillful ways to use that compositional techniques to invoke in our minds the imagery and mythical semiotics, the rhetoric of something generic that we know, they communicate that it's universal for us and we can perceive as like it's not it's a musical signal that doesn't require any description from the composer, but describes itself, like the beginning, the intro that you shown us of the Star Wars saga, when you have that fanfare. It's a little bit naive, but to use that techniques, it's also a skillful workshop of a composer, in my opinion, and thank you for showing us that also.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you, but if...
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
We are now inviting Juan Ignacio Sáenz. Juan is from Escuela Superiora de Música José Lo Guidese. He's master in composition and professor of violin. Juan, can you hear us? Juan will present.
Yes, I can.
Okay, we can hear you, but the signal is really quiet. Can you speak more, please?
Okay. Well, I don't know what happened with the camera, but yes. Okay. Thank you for this space, Greco. Just a little thing. I am not a master's degree in composition. Yes, in interpretation. I have a professor degree. I have been working with Pablo Arayi for this technique. Let me seconds. Oh. I think that there is a problem with the camera. I will go on with the presentation. This, yes, I will share you the slides.
Yeah, you can share the slides.
Okay. Okay. Can you see the...
Yes, we can see the Canva.
Okay. Okay. This work is entitled Co-Creation and Recreation, and it's about technical interpretative approaches to Pablo Arayi works, LOGWA KWA T and How for violin solo. So, Pablo Arayi is a doctor in music, Argentinian composer, has been a pupil of Julio Estrada, and he has been doing too much research about spectral and enharmonic sound in music, as we will hear in these two pieces that I have brought. These two pieces are part of one piece that is composed by three movements, and the adaptation of these three movements were originally thought for violin and viola, but Arayi made an arrangement for solo violin, and we took only the first and the third movement. That are movements that are movements that requires some extended techniques for playing the violin. So, for the main idea of the interpretation of these works, we need to forge and a little bit talk about the term autopoiesis. To define autopoiesis, I will define first poiesis. Poiesis was a term that ancient Greeks used to talk about something that is brought to life about the creative process. But it's something that it's not necessarily alive in the term poiesis. So it could be anything. It a piece of art, it could be a sculpture, anything that needs a process of creation. Autopoiesis, it's a term, a biology term made by the Chilean scientific that talks about specific systems that self-create and self-sustain. In connection to Arayi works, in those two pieces, How and Logwa, poiesis manifests through the violinist's body, the breath, the movement, the sound, to create aperiodic and enharmonic textures. This piece, we have made many rehearsals, like doing a work from 5 months between he gave me the first score and let me explore a little bit, and then we made some rehearsals together. So with his idea of the sound and what it's properly rated down on the score, and what ideas of interpretation I could brought to this piece, and also the technical challenge for the instrument. So here in the score, in the main score, you can find two different shapes. The first shape in How B we have the particularity that the violin is not played as the traditional style. It has to be put it vertically in front of the chest, and we have different motions as the arrows can show you. Those different motions are motions that will be written down in the score. So the particularity in how is that one of the in spectral harmonics are given by the friction between the two bows, between the hair of the bow 1 and the hair of bow 2. In LOGWA, this changes and the bows do not make friction between them. So we have the frictions between the strings, and not all the strings of the instrument. If not, there is one bow that takes the two lower strings, E and A, and two strings for the upper bow. Here we have an excerpt of the score. Can you see the dot? The dot in yes? Here.
Yes, we can see the dot.
Okay, here I will explain a little bit about the score. This score says that it has to be, there is a time signing, a very low time signing, but it says that it's irregular and it has to be free, spontaneous. So we are talking about an spontaneous motion. In the upper part of the score, we can see the bow 1. The bow 1 will make all the action against the other bow. So it has to be, it has to pass with friction with the other bow, with the second bow. And the second bow will be over the strings of the violin. So here we have an indications that it will say that if we read this, the whole structure is a musical piece that comes from the nothing, from the niente, to a bigger sound, a bigger sound, a bigger sound, a bigger structure of sound. So this is like sound mazes. It's like a sound maze that it's growing bigger and bigger over the time. In these lines, we can see the idea of the sound as this is a non-spectral sound, as a structure that will be continuous, so it will not stop at all, but that it will have also this frictional idea that the sounds that comes up and down. Also, when we were rehearsing this with Pablo, he told me about those like guttural sounds, like the sound that doesn't appear tonally inside the throat. So here in those arrows beneath, we have also the movement of the bow in the different sections of this between del tasto e il ponte, sul tasto o sul ponte. As we go up, it will go more sul tasto, and it will go, and as it will go down, we will go more than sul ponte. This shows how Pablo also wants to play with harder and harsh sounds and softer sounds. Also, every time I speak about sound, I'm speaking about a non-spectral sound. A texture that is more close to an inharmonic spectrum. Yes. Another thing is that those dotted lines show us the idea that it will happen as he wants, something aperiodical and something that it's not regularly continuous like a metronome. Yes, we will have some sound stops, but that doesn't mean that it has to be between the both bows, like absolute silence or like a silence like a breath. No, it has to be continuous till the end. We will hear a little bit of an excerpt of the beginning of the piece. This piece was how? I will go right through the beginning.
Sorry, I think we might play the piece from our computer, if you may.
Okay. You could hear a little bit?
No, but we will watch it if you may. Give us 20 seconds, please. Okay, you may continue. Do you wish to show the second excerpt?
Oh, you didn't hear what I was saying, no?
No.
Excuse me.
We watched the first video.
Okay. I will continue with what I have just said. I think I was with the microphone closed. Well, the first part, what we have watched, is this idea of del niente, que it starts to appear a new form of sound. This idea of autopoiesis, for this recreation, we have to first create. So we have to create an idea of sound, and later on work with this idea of sound. To work with this idea of sound, we have to at least accept ourselves what we are expecting to play. In this second excerpt, I will show you just a little bit of the generating a little bit of the climax of the work. To work with this piece was a challenge to think about. When I was playing with Arayi, he was always thinking like, don't make metronomical or structured or something that we can call a proper technique that you could repeat. Don't search for repetitive movements. It was a challenge for a violinist, so as we are used to use our shoulders, also our arms. So I started to research in other places. This other place that I was researching for, it was the breath. I took as a time signing every cell as a breath, an inner breath and an outer breath. So the tempo, here we can say that it is biological, because each cell, it will continuously grow with the breath. And also with this breath, to search with the scapula and other bones in the back to make the movements a little bit rigid, but without stopping of playing. Let's see if we can hear a little bit. Okay, so here, you hear me here? Just to be sure.
Yes, we can hear you.
Not the piece yet, I think, or because... okay, so what we have here is those little rhythmical challenges that comes with accents or crescendos that goes to accents, fortepianos, aperiodical rhythms, and as I told before, this idea of moving the bow from sul tasto to sul ponticello. A final excerpt of this piece, how it's important that this constant crescendo, it finishes with a sudden silence, like an abrupt silence. So, to create this part, I will show you directly the audio. See. Well, I will also give you the links later on in the chat. So if you want to listen a little bit more, and also if you can share this PowerPoint, or the slides, you can have also this guidance to the interpretation of this piece. Now, going on with LOGWA, as is part of the same, as it is part of the same piece, it has the same idea of autopoiesis, but as a second movement, in this case, that it has been arranged for violin, it's a more aggressive sound. More aggressive sound. To achieve this, we have two bows over the instrument, and these two bows will have a connection as they have before, but over the strings. We will hear the beginning of the piece. So, as you can see, we have different positions of the bow.
Sorry,
Yes.
can you give us a little 15 seconds to watch the video, please?
Yes. Yes. Are we in both? Yes.
Yes, you can continue.
Oh, okay. That message was for me. I thought it was for me, the message of the pause. Okay, let's continue. With LOGWA, I will go directly to the point of the new concepts. New concept as the first concept we have shown how some of those concepts repeats on LOGWA. The first concept here that we have to see is the idea of this circular sound or the circular motion with the friction, those constant rhythms that comes a little bit like not connected, but yes, one has to make an emphasis between one another, like first attacking here, then attack there, then attack there. It's like I was thinking when I was making the interpretation, like almost a panic attack. And also when we talk with Arayi about the interpretation of this piece, especially with the sound, he asked me once, what do you feel when you play this music? What would you think about the interpretation of this? And I gave him an answer of how I made this piece a little bit of me. I used to remember those years of COVID, of enclosure, everyone in the rooms, and I told him I was some days like in my room for 3, 4, 5 days without talking to nobody, and when I wanted to talk, I realized that I wasn't talking about in 1, 2, 3, 4 days, and it's difficult for your voice to find a way out. And these rispidous sounds that comes across, like I confuse the terms in Italian. I would say singhiozzo. Singhiozzo is like hicus, like haikach, like a haikach. So to make clear the voice that doesn't come out, how to make a clear voice that doesn't come out, but that it is alive, and it's not comfort with being like this. So this was my personal interpretation. So this and in the co-creation, we talk too much about the feelings of playing this music. I will show you this part that it's the middle part of the piece, and also make like a closing summary. I think that my camera doesn't work because I'm sharing the slides, but when I stop sharing the slide, you can ask some questions and we can finish the talk. So I will show you this part properly here, and I will stop sharing the screens to see if we can see each other. This part here was... Okay. So here. Just to make my closing summary, the idea that I extract from this piece of Pablo Arayi is that the violinist becomes an autopoietic agent through the breath, the movement, how it generates and regenerates constantly this idea of in-spectral sound. And it becomes like a work in real lifetime, because when playing a piece like this, one is not thinking about something structured that has learned since it's a kid, like how measures you have to count, or and now comes this that it's expected, and I have to create a climax till there. It's not. It's a big idea that you have to go through this big idea. You have to live it like with the concept. I have to arrive here. And in the middle, those problems, I would say problems like the rhythmical parts, just with working a little bit with breath or with the self-interpretation, one can go through. It's a piece that I really like it a lot to play and to record. Now I will stop sharing and I will see if I can see you. Here we go. No, the camera doesn't work.
Unfortunately, camera doesn't work, but we thank you very much.
Let me just...
And I would ask if there is any person who would want to ask a question. Okay, we have one participant, Dr. Manuel Salas.
Hello, Juan. Well, regarding the notation of these two pieces, I saw that mainly it's written the motion and of course the some kind of dynamics also. But what about if Pablo spoke with you how to manage with the components in general, the components of the sound? Because mainly we focus, or you focus on the movement of the bow on the body on the violin and the pressure. But what about the other components, like the rest of components of the sound? How you manage, or if Pablo spoke with you, or you by yourself you just imagine and you start to control it?
Yes, it's a really good question. But we talked much with Bob about this. He wanted not go to a tonal sound. It was difficult because in the violin you take out the pressure, harmonics, tonal harmonics, and he didn't want not even a whistle sounds. So the idea was that, the concept was that, about this thing that this scripture that is like an electrocardiogram, this is the key. Because here we have the idea of how much pressure he wants on each cell, on each bar. So in each bar you have like this linear expression that gives you more pressure, less pressure. Always think that the idea of sound, as we know it as tonal sound, it has to disappear, not even in harmonics.
Okay, so it was mainly working with noise and the rest of the components in the macro timbre, yes?
Yes, I was working especially with noise, only with noise.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, despite of the technical problems here.
Oh, can I talk already? So we've seen those two pieces that are basically exploring the violin, and there is also a piece by Helmut Lachenmann, Prussian, where he explores the cello exactly the same way as violin is explored here. So if I understand correctly, the main goal of those pieces is to explore the extended techniques on instrument and how they can be used in non-traditional way. But those things, to my mind, are really performative and not practical. Like, people won't listen to this music every day and even twice a week. What do you think, to your opinion, is there any practical way to use those extended techniques on instruments, maybe to some kind of traditional music or jazz or something else to apply that?
Yes, I understand your question. It's really good. It's a really good question because as I was recording this or making a rehearsal, out of my seat, what are you playing? and you're right, because when one is performing music, audience expects like the traditional performance, or also talk about extended techniques. And this idea of extended technique, yes, we can use some of these extended techniques. Here in Argentina, it's not difficult to find some tango players playing and making some noise string, like using it as a percussive notation, no? Making some rhythms. But in Pablo Arayi, it's really interesting, and also in Julio Estrada's work. If you can also search for his SoundCloud, this is like, I won't say experimentation, because Pablo knows really well the music that he wants to make. He's not like searching something new, but making a structure of what he wants to say. And in this experience, I would, for listening to this music, guidance or the idea that I will give is also the idea that maybe we are standing in this Occidental point of view of the music, that music is something that we have to appreciate from far. We have to see it like we have to enter to a museum to see a piece of art, or we have to go to a concert and clean our ears, because the experience will enter from our ears. And this idea of post-contemporary music, it's really good, the idea of living through the piece. Like, the piece is like a knife that is cutting those edges that we have, where we limit the idea of art. Also, what gives this kind of piece the representation is that here in this city, Pablo Arayi is teacher from the music. I am professor of music. I have been playing many traditional pieces. So when you appear with this thing, this question that you made is the question that also audience makes. Because we have maybe this idea that music is something that we put on a device to enjoy while we are sitting in our homes, or also make sport. So maybe to go a little bit away, put aside this idea, and try also, why not, even if you are not a violinist, but to hold two bows and search those sounds into the violin, and ask you a little bit like why, what I am searching here, what I am giving to life. This piece, it will be, but for a traditional violinist, it won't be a challenge in that way. For me, it will be a challenge of interpretation, of giving a life something in an instrument that is thought as a tonal instrument, but without the search of the tone.
Okay, thank you.
No, you're welcome.
That would conclude this presentation. Thank you very much, Juan.
Thank you, Gregor, and thank you, everybody in the Academy.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last session, but not least of our events during the Laboratory of Music. We have workshops ahead. We have tomorrow concert. And I would like to please invite Wojtek to say some warm words as a co-organizer of our conference.
Drodzy Państwo, serdecznie dziękuję. To już był ostatni referat w ramach naszej konferencji. To były 2 dni owocnej pracy. Oczywiście leitmotivem była muzyka, ale cieszymy się, że zostało poruszonych tak wiele problemów, czy to semiotyki dzieła muzycznego, jeśli chodzi o wykonawstwo, czy też interpretację oraz wiele innych wątków, z czego bardzo się cieszymy. Również sprawiło wielką radość nam, że tak wiele osób wzięło udział z ośrodków z Polski, ale i też z różnych zakątków świata. Naprawdę jesteśmy radości z tego powodu. Tak jak też Grzegorz mówił, sama konferencja jeszcze nie ma końca. Będą jeszcze warsztaty właśnie z Grzegorzem po przerwie, a całość zwieńczy jutrzejszy koncert kompozytorski. Cieszymy się, że też towarzyszyły nam wcześniej inne wydarzenia, czy to właśnie dzisiejszy wywiad z panią profesor Iwoną Lindstedt, która pokazała nam nowe metody badawcze, jeśli chodzi o muzykę, czy perspektywę na przyszłość, jak to może dalej ewoluować i wyglądać, czy też wczorajsza rozmowa z panem profesorem Michałem Dobrzyńskim, który zaprezentował swoją twórczość, swoje refleksje na temat muzyki i twórczości, ale także i też nie zapominajmy o warsztatach w młynach Rotera, które zorganizował Kuba Śliwiński, więc myślę, że naprawdę mamy za sobą 2 dni pracy. Też podzieliliśmy się swoimi refleksjami na temat muzyki, przekonaniami. Ta dyskusja tutaj była najważniejsza i myślę, że hasła, które zawierają się w haśle naszej konferencji, jak najbardziej zostały spełnione. Drodzy Państwo, niestety już ostatni wykład został wypowiedziany i kończymy już obrady 2. Międzynarodowej Konferencji Studenckiej Laboratorium Muzyczne, badanie, twórczość i interpretacja. Dziękuję serdecznie.
Dziękujemy. I za wsparcie i opiekę merytoryczną dziękujemy również panu doktorowi Manuelowi Salasowi, jak również Barbarze Michalec, Wiktorii Gołębiewskiej, które przygotowały jutrzejszy koncert, wszystkim wykonawcom, kompozytorom i naszej wspaniałej, zgranej ekipie, która zapełniła nam transmisję. Wszystkie nazwiska będziecie mogli Państwo wygooglować i usłyszeć na początku naszego streamu na otwarciu. Dziękujemy i do zobaczenia.
No.